Hi guys, we're here one more time with the On The Mat podcast. Today we have Sean. Know that he just started training 4 months ago.
From February, back in February.
Yeah, and then he start after the kids start training. He came for the gym to coach wrestling. He started a wrestling program there, and then he start teaching the kids. And he start looking to the sides like, what is that? What is that? And the kids start training. And then he finally came training for us. But the idea, now he's a Division I wrestler, to talk to him about the difference between wrestling and jiu-jitsu. He just have a few months in jiu-jitsu, but he's already compete. Just to see what is he think about it, jiu-jitsu in just like a small period of the time, but and see how wrestling help or sometimes help not helping him. Then that's what we're going to talk here today. Sean, you can present yourself,
I'm Sean. I got 4 months of jiu-jitsu under my belt, like Professor Renato had said. And I've got several years of freestyle, folk style, and Greco wrestling. Not much Greco, but more folk style and freestyle wrestling. And it's a big difference. Difference in pace, difference in movement. How people react to takedowns versus people pulling guard, and there's a lot of different things that you learn can be done that you're not used to being done in a grappling situation. The difference in the rule set really changes the dynamic of us wrestlers not really being comfortable on our backs, not really wanting to stay there, not used to people being comfortable on their back, where people in jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu fighters are very comfortable fighting off their back, and something that, maybe I need to learn more about fighting off of my back. It's a big difference in learning when to control your pace and when to go fast and when to relax and control the situation.
Mm-hmm. Let's start. Where do you start doing wrestling? How long you did wrestling? What is the?
So I started wrestling in 7th grade. I'd always, growing up in the 90s, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers were big. So, I begged my parents, please put me in karate. I want to be the karate kid. So I finally got into Taekwondo, maybe 3rd or 4th grade, and had a good time learning some, the idea of what martial arts were. Mm-hmm. And then did some team sports. I played soccer, I did hockey, and my dad had found a wrestling program when I was in 7th grade, and he said, hey, look, let's go check this out. Because my dad had wrestled in high school, and he was a successful wrestler up in New York. So let's go check it out. So I fell in love immediately with wrestling and the one-on-one aspect of, trying to impose your will on somebody. I quit all the other sports that I did, and I focused strictly on wrestling. Throughout middle school, I had traveled, throughout the Southeast United States to wrestle in different tournaments, and helped with the high school program. Helped a lot of the high school wrestlers, even though I was still in middle school. And then when I got into high school, I had a successful high school career. Never once stayed. I took third 3 years in a row. 3-time third placer. Graduated from Cardinal Gibbons down in Fort Lauderdale. Pretty big wrestling school, and went to college in Chattanooga. Wrestled for Terry Brands. Terry Brands is a very dominant wrestler that likes to push the pace. He loves to move forward. Constantly wants you running back to the center of the mat. Wants you putting pressure on people, and that's something that I really enjoy is pushing forward hard and putting a lot of pressure on people, and controlling the center of the mat. Really in wrestling, not stalling. You never want to stall. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoy pushing the pace in a wrestling match. Now coming into jiu-jitsu, you really need to you need to watch yourself, because pushing the pace, you can get caught in a submission pretty quick. Leaving your arms out or your head out, because these guys are pretty good.
Yeah, like you start looking from because you came to teach like the wrestling program. What really like a push you to start doing jiu-jitsu was?
I'm at the wrestling program, and I'm here with these kids, and it's great. I really enjoy, youth wrestling, and I love the fact that Renato started the program. But I'm looking at guys my age, my weight, having way more fun than I am, and I couldn't take it anymore. I said, I told my wife, I said, I got to get back on the mat. I gotta try this jiu-jitsu thing. I've obviously you've seen people do jiu-jitsu, and you maybe have played around and gone to a couple open mats and learned, a couple things, but never put on a gi, never had a belt, never really knew anything about it. And one day I just walked in. I met Renato. We had previously met throughout the gym during wrestling, and I said, "Hey, I want to start," and he signed me up. Him and Jake signed me up, and ever since then, I think I've been trying to go 5-6 times a week. I mean, it's an instant addiction. It's instant. And it's great. My kids go, so I get to. Thank God Renato lets me come on the mat and help with the kids class, even though a lot of these kids know more jiu-jitsu than I do. I mean, let's be honest, they've been doing it for longer than I have. But it's great being out there with my kids, and my wife takes a fitness class there. She's really, it's really, the community he's built is really amazing. It's somewhere where I can bring my wife, my family, my parents came to the last competition he had. It's really somewhere that everybody's welcome. And everybody's willing to help you. We all have our faults, and everybody's willing to look past a lot of that stuff and help you.
For you, like it come from board short to pajama.
Yeah.
Was you feel the different?
Yeah, I'm used to wrestling in a singlet or shorts and a t-shirt, and I call it pajama wrestling, and it's really the grips are I'm not used to it, so a lot of I got a lot to learn when it comes to grappling in a gi. There's a lot of chokes that you don't see coming because you're not used to, wearing a gi or grappling for submissions in general. But it really is interesting, to learn different aspects of the game where you're able to use the gi to your advantage. And I'm able to do a couple chokes now that I've been doing it for a few months and learned a sweep or two. So, incorporating that into my game, because, in jiu-jitsu self-defense, really, I started getting into it. I got my kids involved because, my son's in 6th grade and he's over at the middle school, and, there's kids pick on him. He's not the biggest kid in the world, but he's a really nice kid. He's in orchestra and he's a lot of extracurricular activities, straight A student. So, he made himself a little bit of a target to some of the bullies, and something that I didn't like seeing. So I said, let's sign him up for some jiu-jitsu, because really when it comes to self-defense, the taekwondo, the karate, that's all well and good. But, I don't think there's anything better than what Renato's got going on in his gym, with a mixture of Muay Thai, a mixture of the jiu-jitsu, and then the wrestling, and he's got a full weight set there. So he's really invested in that gym, and so I've got my kids involved for self-defense, and now it's really put a lot of confidence in my kids, which it's nice to see my sixth grader going to be 7th grade now. Not coming home complaining that he's getting picked on. Because he knows deep down inside, these kids are, maybe picking on him, but, if push came to shove, he'd probably control the situation if he needed to.
Yeah, the good thing in jiu-jitsu, like that, when you start learning and start building confidence, you avoid the confrontation.
Yeah.
Because you can, it's like it's like, okay, that's okay. Just call me this, call me that. I know you're not there, because building that confidence. I remember when I started 6 years old, and then the one thing that my coach always say, like, it's more important learning the jiu-jitsu as much as you're learning, less you need to use. Because now you're more calm. You're right. Yeah, okay. And then walk away. You're just going to use if you really need somebody to put a hand on you. And one thing about your kid, I remember like one day you told me you asked him to go to wrestling or jiu-jitsu, and then he's like, make a little, he's like, what? Just tell the story.
He, I asked him, I said, because I noticed, he's really, he's going to jiu-jitsu 4 times a week, sometimes 5, because we do the Sunday class as a family. And he's really everything he's talking about recently. Dad, we did this in jiu-jitsu. What do you think about this? And he's not really talking about wrestling. So I said, Brody, are you, what do you like better? Do you like jiu-jitsu or do you like wrestling? He says, well, I really like jiu-jitsu, which is fine with me. I'm okay with that. I'm just happy he's on the mat. Which is funny. Mike Dennis, he had asked my son Brody, this one hurts a little bit. He said, Brody, do you like to be on top in jiu-jitsu or on bottom? My son said he likes to be on top. He says, do you like to do takedowns to get there, or do you want to do sweeps? And my son would rather pull guard and sweep somebody than have takedowns. So he really is, a jiu-jitsu fighter that's training some wrestling.
Then
which is okay.
You have been coming, like it's like in 3 days you come to the mat like 5 times, like you do 5 classes.
Yeah.
You do Sunday, you do Monday.
So when I'm off on Sundays, I come in on Sunday. That's a great class with Leo. He lets me bring the kids. They get to, and we've actually got a couple other kids coming. So now there's 4 or 5 kids that come, and they have fun. It's not a real serious class for them, but it's something that I get to get the kids out of the house with me. My wife can go to her yoga class, and we can all get our exercise in. So I go on Sundays when I'm off, and then Monday I get off of work early. So I like to go to I really like to go to that technique class, the beginner's class that you have, because you really learn a lot. And then we have a more advanced class that's 640 that is great. And then Tuesday, y'all should be coming to that 6 a.m. Competition class with Seth. That's a barn burner. Everybody should be there. It's a great class. And then I try to come at 11, and I come back with the kids to the kids class and help on the mat there. And then we have the 640 class again for the adults. And then I'm back Tuesday morning at 6 a.m. But my schedule doesn't let me come every day. So I come as much as I can when I'm off. And, I do work full time at a car dealership in the finance department. So if I'm not at the gym, at Renato's gym, I'm at work or I'm at home. So, it's really something that I've had to really squeeze into my schedule as much as possible, because, I'm going on 3 days now. I'm like, when am I getting back on the mat? I know we don't have anything tomorrow, it's a good thing to have. It's a good addiction to have. It's a good, you step out on the mat and all the, I like to tell my wife, all the voices go away, but it's all the worry. It's all your stress from work, all the stress from everything in your life. Just, you don't worry about that for an hour or two. You just go out there and wrestle in your pajamas.
These 4 months, when you start, I don't know, it's like just a small period of time, just 4 months, when you get in 2 years, 3 years. But what the difference you see when you start, not just on the training part, but about yourself. You change your mind.
I'm a lot happier. I'm a happier person. My boss says all the time, is, you went from being one of the angriest people at work, always upset, to, the happiest person. I said, yeah, before I come to work, I either get choked or I get to choke somebody. So, it's you get all your frustrations out right there on the mat. I know it's not therapy, but it's therapy.
It is.
If you've survived somebody trying to choke you or break your arm for an hour, really not much worse can go on in your day. What else could go wrong?
And then the good thing in jiu-jitsu, you really fight, the person going to try, go to your arm, to your neck, but you have the tap that it can stop and then you start over again. It's not.
Yes. And tap. Don't be a hero. Tap. Don't end up with a swollen ankle or, pass out or something like that. Tap.
Then during this time too, I see your because when you came, it was 200.
I was about 215 when I started there.
Now,
I'm floating around between 190 and 185. I competed. I weighed in. I was about 184 with the gi on. I was 188, something like that. So, it's given me a reason to really not just, obviously you're going to lose a lot of weight just with the cardio, but, change my diet because I don't want to be sluggish out there because I ate McDonald's the night before. I want to eat whole foods and healthier foods, and I want to prioritize my protein and clean carbohydrates. Because I know that there's guys out there that, hey, look, that may be the edge that I have. That may be, that may be a little bit of an edge if somebody's at the same level as me, or, I prioritize going to the gym and working on strength training because, again, that may be a little bit of an edge that I may have on somebody. And it's really changed the way I approach the gym, strength training wise, versus, now I'm doing more mobility based exercises and, maybe not ego lifting as much, maybe more jiu-jitsu based exercises, less beach muscle type stuff.
About the tournament, you did a tournament. Was it 3 months training?
Yeah, about 3 months in. We had the association tournament at the gym, which is a great turnout. I'm hoping this next one's going to be a bigger turnout.
Yes.
If you guys can make it, everybody should be there. It's a good way to support Renato and really, get together as a family. It was a great experience. It really was. It's different, than training at the gym. Your nerves go, and you got to be careful because you lose your grips. You get too nervous, you can't grab anything, and a lot of this grip stuff's important. It was really good to kind of figure out what it's all about and go through everything. Checking the gi, make sure it fits, and checking your weight, and he put on a great event.
But just to, because how long you're not competing? Just to get back on the.
Yeah, it was about 14 years, I'd say, since I competed. Last time I competed, I was wrestling for Bakersfield Community College out in Bakersfield, Tennessee, or Bakersfield, California, after leaving Chattanooga, and probably didn't go as planned. But this was a way better competition, and. I'm not as fast as I used to be or as crisp as I used to be, but, that's why we're in the Masters division and not in the adult division, right? But it was great to be out there competing for the first time in 14, 15 years. And, I don't recover as fast, I'll tell you that much.
I think because you just start training and then probably use more muscle than you're supposed to. Because when they stay too much of technique and they do more strength, the grips.
Yeah, I tend to
the breathing exercise, the breathing part of the training too.
Yes, I've been really working on when I get a situation where I'm in control, when I get into side control, to tell myself, hey, breathe, because I will gas myself out very fast. It's something that I definitely need to work on. The breathing is very important.
And then you talk a little bit about the community, how you now part of the gym, the people you start meeting, those start.
Yeah, it's a great community. It's something that I feel like was missing a lot in my life was, my family, we like I said, we did a couple sports here and there, and those team sports, my kids really didn't make friends, or my wife didn't meet another person that she became friends with. But here it's like everybody's a community. We all see each other every day, basically, or 3 or 4 times a week. And, we all now got a ton of Facebook followers. My whole Instagram feed's all jiu-jitsu. And, I helped Edwin the other day. He needed a car for his daughter. So I was able to help him out with that, which felt really good. It's very welcoming. My kids made a ton of friends. My son really, my daughter's Miss Popular. She's gonna make sense. But my son's really came out of his shell a lot, and it's really good to see him, basically grow up and blossom right in front of my face.
Yeah, inside the gym, your daughter's a little
apprehensive, a little bit shy.
Your wife, she's not like this at home with it.
No, not at home, not at school. But she realized she's not as tough as she thought she was, and you know, for her to get this, she got a stripe on Friday night. And, I'm happy she did, because she would have probably cried if she didn't get a stripe. But she's been going for probably 4 or 5 months now as well, and it's really, the discipline's really what I like for her, because she likes to push boundaries. And at home, she's our tough child. She gets good grades in school, and she's good in school, but she's tough. She's a tough woman. But really, she's a little bit shy around, especially Renato. I mean, she's very shy around you. She clams right up. Where my son's really not. He's
it's like both were like a, they a little. I think it's still like get in the gym is not like know everybody, but I can see they slowly open up.
Yeah, slowly coming out of their shell. Me, I opened up right away when I got there. That's like home to me now. I mean, I felt, as soon as I stepped on the mat there, I felt like I was like, oh yeah, this is what I was missing.
Yeah, like that when I invite you to come help with the kids class, like I think is it, and then I invite you all the parents too, because I think it's something that you guys can talk about together, gonna grow, a family, have more bonds together as a family,
It is. And
so if you guys can talk about it, right?
My son's actually taught me some moves that he's learned, and we're at home, we're hanging out, and he said, "Dad, I want to show you this mount escape," and he showed it to me, and I ended up using it. And so I said, "Man, where'd you learn that?" I said, "Well, my son taught me. He was at, he learned it at the kids class, and he taught it to me." And it was pretty exciting to to know, hey, look, this, even though they're teaching at the kids class, the basics, the basics always work. And even at home, or we went to my parents' house for dinner a couple nights ago, and my daughter wants to show off. She wants to try to, she's trying to jump on me and full guard and sweep me. So my parents really, my dad especially, my dad eats that stuff up. My mom's on their hands like, be careful, you guys are gonna get hurt. But it's it really is. It's nice to see them have something else besides video games and iPads. That we're able to talk about.
That's awesome. Then as we just have around 4 months, what do you see for now? If you want to compete more, what do you want to learn more? What do you want to kind of emerge more in jiu-jitsu? What is your next?
So I definitely want to compete more. That being said, I'm old, so it takes you're an anomaly. No. I need to focus on being smart. My joints, I need to take care of my joints. I need to take care of my body, so that way I can compete more. So supplementation is going to be important with that. I definitely want to compete more, but I need to learn more. I definitely need to learn more, and definitely need to train more in situations I'm not comfortable in. I could stand up and we could do takedowns, and I'm comfortable there, but I'm not comfortable in certain areas of my game. That's really where I need to focus on, and really slowing down and controlling the situation, and figuring out what slowing down and controlling the situation really means. Because the style wrestling that I was raised at, there was never slowing down. It was always, if you can't take somebody down, you could probably, if you shoot a hard enough double, you can probably blow right through them. It was all about a mental edge. If I could push you out of bounds and I could control you, eventually I'm going to win. Where in jiu-jitsu, if I start pushing on you, you're probably going to pull guard, or it's not going to be good for me. So I need to be careful.
You're training there. You have like a training partner that pretty much you train all the time. We're training for a couple of coaches. What is your experience with other students and the coach when you're training with them? What do we kind of start pick from maybe training for the regular students and training for the coaches? What you can see the difference?
So training with the coaches, I'm stuck. There's not much I can do. A black belt in jiu-jitsu is a black belt in jiu-jitsu for a reason. they don't give them out on accident. They're not participation trophies. I've been wrestling my whole entire life, and between rolling around with Renato and with Seth, I felt like it was my first day. If I can't get a takedown or even get it on their legs, it really made me feel like I was had a lot to learn.
And now for the pajama, to pass the grips,
The grips is a huge thing. Focusing, because a lot of times, if you're, I don't care who you are, if you grab my lapel, it's going to be hard for me to take you down unless I can break that grip. The first couple of weeks, maybe I didn't understand that, and I was just shooting, and I finally, okay, we gotta break the grip first. There's a lot of stuff we have to do. It's a little different, but I'm enjoying every bit of it.
Then, like we're gonna have the tournament June 14th. Going to be the second tournament. You're gonna change your weight class. Going to keep the same. What are you?
I'm gonna stay at 190, which I don't think it's gonna be that hard to make this time. I cut a little bit of weight last time. I just started. I was 215, and I cut down to 190 with the gi on, which I found out during the process we had to wear. I didn't know we were wearing the gi during weigh-ins. I'm used to weighing in as a wrestler. You weigh in and you weigh in. You don't have to wear anything to weigh in. So I found out that we had the
3 extra pounds.
The couple of pounds you got to lose. But now that I'm not cutting from 190 or 200, 215, I'm maintaining 190, 195, 185, 190. That I'll feel like I'll be a little bit stronger, a little better hydrated than I was, which is all part of it. That's where you get a little bit better edge.
Yeah, when it kind of changed, like when you did the first tournament for now, you already have a create your game plan. How's that?
Yeah, I've got a game plan. All right. I'm
that's your game plan.
I mean, I'm gonna, we get 2 points for takedowns, right?
Why not use, right?
It's a point based game.
Yeah.
So I'm always gonna want to get a takedown, and the difference this time is I've learned a few submissions, and I'm pretty confident with a couple of them that seem to work in my advantage because of my wrestling background. I'm picking up a little things that, hey, look, this is good for a wrestler. I'm going to go ahead and keep this in my back pocket. So I've got a little bit of a game plan this time. Hopefully every match or every fight this time isn't full 5 minutes. Hopefully we can end a couple of them quick.
Awesome. And then as a family, what are you looking? Everybody what are you looking? How jiu-jitsu can be more involved in your family, or what you think jiu-jitsu can help the stuff inside your family.
It's going to give them something to work towards. It's going to give them. My daughter, like I said, she got her first stripe. My son missed the ceremony.
I'm going to get a stripe.
He hasn't got it yet though. So he's still wondering, am I going to get a stripe? My daughter, now she's like, she wants to work towards the next one. She wants to put in the work and get better. It's really changed. Like I said, it's changed everything for us because they're not in the house anymore. They're not. They're out there making friends and hopefully training partners for life. Because this isn't something that I want them to get involved with for a month or two. It's something that I want them to it's something that you have for your entire life. It's something that even at 60, 70 years old, if you want to roll around, if you can still get out on the mat if you're taking care of yourself your entire life. And I want my son still to wrestle. My daughter's wrestling too. I want them to wrestle in high school, and there's no college jiu-jitsu yet. Hopefully at some point there will be, but I'd like for them to take it to that level if they're interested in that. But it's keeping them out of the street. It's keeping them out of
Healthy environment.
yeah, healthy environment around the right people, because it seems like everybody there seems to be pretty
The
nice.
stuff you said too, it's like how the sport get they create more social skills, like have that stuff skills. Oh, right now a lot of kids just in the computer,
Yes.
iPads and phones.
Yes, everybody's locked in here. There's no face to face. There's no
disappointments at times, get disappointed on the mat and stuff like that. Learning, like you said, like be comfortable on the uncomfortable situation, right?
It puts you want to do hard things. It makes you grow as a person, and so many things these days are just my son's got a ton of trophies in his room for football teams and that he's been on, but they never even won a game. It's you versus the other person. It's you versus you, but it's you versus somebody else. And there's no, if you lose, there's no one to blame it on but yourself. So it makes you look in the mirror and say, hey, look, I need to change this in my game, or I need to change that in my game, which I love. It's the accountability, really.
One thing is always saying, jiu-jitsu, like you're not lose, you're learning.
Yes.
It's a learning lesson. It's like every time about what I did, what I can do better, what I can change. It was always a process to grow. I've been doing jiu-jitsu for a long time, and then I still looking for change things in my game, add things in my game, because it's never end. That's a good thing. Jiu-jitsu, like it doesn't have that's the movies you're gonna do, and that's it.
Yeah.
You can keep
It's a puzzle.
Exactly.
It's a puzzle. It's a bunch of different games, from what I've understood, and you got to figure each game out.
And then, as Division One wrestling, maybe like another people that are watching today, that's like doing wrestling, just tell them what maybe they should do, why they should do.
If you're wrestling, do jiu-jitsu too. It's not going to make you worse. It's going to make you better. A lot of the moves in jiu-jitsu are judo moves, and a lot of the wrestling moves are judo moves. So there's a lot of stuff that crosses over. I definitely would encourage people that are wrestling, because after college, unless you're going on the Olympic circuit, you're going to the Worlds. There's not a lot of competitions or even clubs, at least around here, that you're going to be able to roll around with guys your age and people your size. If you're a bigger guy, where there's jiu-jitsu gyms everywhere where you can get in there and roll around with guys and continue to grapple. And this is not a play against wrestling at all, but wrestling is they're short moves. They're your short explosions on your feet. Wrestling's like in math, 2 + 2 is 4. Where jiu-jitsu, there's 50 steps to one move. It's more like calculus, which I never took calculus. So it's just advancing that game a little bit further. Because once you're 24, 25, unless you're living at the OTC, you're training, with Kel Sanderson, or you're over at Iowa, there's really not a lot of it for us. But you can get the same satisfaction out of jiu-jitsu, whether it's the gi or it's no gi. I haven't got an opportunity to do much no gi, but it's just you're gonna enjoy it if you get involved.
And then the good thing, like in jiu-jitsu too, is like because they have the age division, you can do forever, And then compare for judo and wrestling is not too aggressive to the body as well, right? Because judo is like so explosive movements,
A lot of throws.
Yeah, it's the fall, and then
Judo's nasty.
Then stuff like that. Well, I have a guy that was judo that he was talking about why judo is not too much popular when the people start getting old, because the injuries, the throws is super hard sport on the body.
Oh yeah.
And then jiu-jitsu, you can take more time. You can use the grips. You can use have a guard stuff. You can kind of hold a little bit.
And you can flow if you're hurt, if you're injured, if not everybody's gonna go. It's not. Look, some of us are finance guys. So, some of us, some people they're not there to compete. They're just there for a hobby. So, in judo, I'd imagine there's nobody that's there as a hobbyist that wants to get tossed on their head. Where jiu-jitsu, you can go at a different pace and not get thrown.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, make a comment. If you want to learn a little bit more, know about wrestling, we can talk about wrestling jiu-jitsu, how did the stuff see he can bring him again. But whenever you guys have questions or want to see on this channel, just let us know, and we're here for you. All right? Thank you so much. Have a great day. Oos.